the place today. We've got a musician, we've got sitcom stars, we've got all kinds of stuff celebrating the 60s and maybe a little bit of the 70s. And I think everyone's going to have a great time today. And we're glad you're here with us in this great enjoyment, great celebration of a great time in television and in music. Just want to give you a quick update, some things we have going on coming up here at Wizard World Virtual Experiences. Next Saturday, we've got a triple header. That's actually a quadruple header. X-Men, the animated series. We're going to go back to back with X-Men, the animated series. We have so many voice actors from that. We couldn't contain it in one panel. We're going to do those two back to back, followed by Starship Troopers and Land of the Lost. We go back to a 70s era for that as well. Next Sunday, the 8th, it's Baywatch. So we move into the 80s and 90s for Baywatch. And then on Monday, November 9th, a little early Veterans Day celebration with the gals from Pinups for Vets. And the next Thursday, November 12th, it's Last Fan Standing, the fun, geeky game show with the great Bruce Campbell. You can go to wizardworldvirtual.com for all those schedules and for all the different items you can purchase there, as well as the Wizard World Vault. Wizard World Vault is the place where for over 20 years, Wizard World has been conducting pop culture and Comic-Con conventions all across the country, all across the world. And we've culled some of the best stuff from those years, plus more, all at Wizard World Vault. The other great thing at Wizard World Virtual, you'll be able to pick up the live video chats, autographs, and recorded videos that we have on sale for these guests and all the others that we have coming up. Whether you're watching on Twitch or Facebook or YouTube, go ahead into that chat room. Our Wizard World monitors are in there. We'll take the best questions and we'll get those to our guests, which are coming up in just a couple of minutes here at Wizard World Virtual Experiences. We're pleased you've joined us here for our big 60s celebration. I want to start by introducing the first guest. She's a singer, a motivational speaker, an author. She's a former U.S. cultural ambassador and the lead singer of the Supremes, Baby Love, Stop in the Name of Love, Someday We'll Be Together, on and on, hit after hit after hit these gals had. She joins us for the second time at Wizard World Virtual Experiences. If you were here the first time, you're probably back again, the great, amazing Mary Wilson.
Do I plug my camera now?
Yes, please. We want to see you. There you are. Where you are. Where'd you go? Look at you.
My lipstick, we got to get some lipstick that won't come off on the mask.
No,
Hi.
welcome back, Mary. Look at you in the festive. You're still in Halloween mode, I see.
Well, sort of. I'll get out of it now.
Very nice. All right.
Hi,
good to see you. All right. He's appeared in dozens of TV shows and films, most notably, of course, the lead as a child actor in Leave It to Beaver, later as an adult in the new Leave It to Beaver, which lasted 7 years in the 80s. He's also had guest spots on Lassie, The Love Boat, Diagnosis Murder. Here is Jerry Mathers.
Hey, everybody. How you doing?
Welcome back to Wizard World, Jerry.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
Good to see you. Once again, Jerry has been at our live events before. We appreciate you coming here today. Okay, after a recurring role in The Adventures of Ozzie and Harriet, our next guest had a 12-season run every single episode as the original youngest son, Chip, in My Three Sons. He had also numerous voice acting roles, including the series Devlin and The Roman Holidays. Here is Stanley Livingston.
Here I am, somewhere.
There he is.
Hey.
Stanley, how's it going? Welcome to Wizard World.
Thank you. Thank you. Good to be here. Good to be anywhere.
That's always the case. She appeared in the last 9 seasons of My Three Sons as Katie Miller Douglas, wife of the second oldest son, Robbie. In addition to her first regular role a few years earlier on Hawaiian Eye, she had guest spots on shows like The Rookies and Adam 12. Say hello to Tina Cole.
All right.
Yay.
Hi,
Hi, Tina.
everyone. It's so good to be here.
This is great. Thanks so much for joining us. Your Wizard World debut as well. We appreciate
Yes, it
you being
is.
here. And finally, she came onto the My Three Sons scene for the last 3 years, 73 episodes in all as Dodie, the adopted daughter into the Sons. She was then seen on a bunch of great 70s shows, including some of my favorites, Emergency, Streets of San Francisco, Marcus Welby, Barnaby Jones, and others. Here is Dawn Lynn.
Jody is in the house.
Yay, Dawn.
Hey, Jody.
Hello.
Hi, Don.
Welcome
Hi,
to
sis.
the world for you as well. So Massachusetts, New York, New Jersey, all kinds of places people are checking in, and they're on Twitch and Facebook and YouTube. And if you're in there, go ahead and ask the questions that you have. And this is great. So it's great because it's the 60s and the early 70s, but we got a mix of shows and music. And for each of you, you guys are so responsible for so many memories, for so many people who lived through that era. When you think back to that time, did you think that 50 years later, Mary, this music would be so popular, and for the rest of you that these shows would still be so iconic and popular?
Who's going to answer first?
All of you.
I will, since I'm the oldest one here. No, just kidding.
I bet you're not. I bet I could have birthed you.
Okay. Oh, 1944, I was born.
Oh, 1943.
Oh,
Ah.
So it's a tie.
Hey, I'm a Jonathan. Okay, hey, but you know, it is amazing because all of us, we grew up at a time when we were all sort of like on TV and the music and all this stuff was new, right? I mean, I remember watching all of you guys on TV, and it was just such a wonderful time because the world was really kind of opening up, you know, the borders, the British invasion were coming over here, the Motown music and all that stuff, and you guys, I mean, it was just a wonderful, wonderful time. And I think it was Stanley who mentioned some places up in Hollywood when I first went to Hollywood, and it was just so, you know, where were you, Stanley, living?
I lived in Laurel Canyon for 40 years.
Yeah, I
Also
used to
lived
go
in
up-
Studio City before that, and I was born in Hollywood Presbyterian
Me
Hospital.
too,
So,
Stanley. I was
wow.
too.
Yeah,
I lived in Studio City.
I lived within 5 miles of Hollywood Presbyterian Hospital my whole life till I turned 65.
I mean, that was so many. I remember so many years I was winding up the Laurel Canyon, going up to Studio City. In fact, my children were born over there in Studio City. So yeah,
Yep.
I mean, it's good to be back with everyone here. You know, it was great. It was a great time for me. I tell you that.
We're probably
Well, if
neighbors,
I could-
didn't know it.
Right.
If I could chime in for a second here, I think one of the reasons that this time period and the music and the TV shows were so popular and still became iconic and are still so popular today on the nostalgia channels is because of the innocence, the family values. I think we miss that in TV shows today. And I know that I've heard several times from fans who've contacted me and said that I had a difficult life, various things like alcoholic parents I've heard and so forth, that seeing your show and what families should be like is what got me through. And that is so touching and heartfelt, and it's unbelievable. And to be part of that is such a beautiful thing, and I cherish that.
It's interesting too, when you think about how we watched TV in those days. You know, it's not like now where everybody has their own TV set and is in their own room.
Exactly.
There was one TV set in the house, usually in the den, and everybody watched the same shows, but together with your family when you were a little kid. You know, everybody gathered around the TV set. It was kind of like what people did with the radio prior to that. So I think that really kind of, besides watching the TV shows, is a nostalgic thing because you did something with your family all together.
And you know what else was really great for me is this was at a time when the Ed Sullivan Show was on every Sunday, and all of the family would watch the Ed Sullivan Show. I mean,
Ed Sullivan and Hollywood Palace.
Hollywood Palace,
West and East.
yes. I mean, it was just a wonderful time because we you know, I remember looking at what was that? Claudine. She was like one of the first Black women, Black people on TV, you know, in that kind of role. And for us, it was like, wow, this is like so amazing. So many things are. I don't even know the channels that are on TV nowadays. You know what I mean? Back then we had what, channel 2, channel 4. 7, whatever. I knew all the channels. Now I have no idea what channel, you know, to watch.
2,000 channels now instead of ABC, CBS, and NBC, you know.
And then a couple of local channels, and that was it. And it was a smaller pond, too.
Yeah. And
for all of us.
Things were so simple. I mean, that's what it was. Things were much, much simpler then. I think it's become so much, like I don't even know how to operate my telephone here these days. I mean, Marbell was really great for me, honey. And we used to have party lines and things like that. I mean, I grew up watching all you guys. Like, I'm sure you grew up listening to our music.
Of course.
Yeah, we did.
Good to be
Jerry,
back with everybody.
Jerry, what about for you? I mean, Jerry, you brought the show back 20 years later, 30 years later, and they talk about a legacy, and then it lasted for 7 years.
Longer than the first one. The first one was only 6, but we had a really good cast, and people wanted to know what happened to the Beaver, and so it was really fun to go back. We even got like the same director of photography and a lot of the crew, so it was really fun. It was like going to elementary school and suddenly somebody invites you back, and you can see all your friends again.
Mm-hmm. Oh God.
Mary,
I did that recently. The principal from my elementary school somehow got a hold of my number and invited me to the 100th anniversary of Vine Street Elementary School.
Oh,
So that was really kind of weird, but creepy at the same time, going back to the school, when you started in kindergarten and went all the way through 6th grade, but pretty nostalgic.
So a few more countries checking in here and cities. Got Northeast Florida, Durham, North Carolina, New Zealand. Somebody got up either early or late, whatever it is in New Zealand.
Zealand, how
Vancouver,
cool.
Washington, in state of Washington, around the Portland area. So I tell you, we got people, like I said, they're going to be from all over the world, and they certainly are. First question we have from a fan is from Andrea Nikki Hall, and it's for Mary Wilson. Mary, she wants to know if there's anything you would have done differently during your time with the Supremes.
So many things. I was a good girl, but I did a lot of things that I should not have done. But I think
Growing up.
yeah.
probably the most important thing, I think, other than personal things, is like when we signed our initial contract with Motown Records. It was 1961, and we were all just 16 years old, actually. And we would have signed, I would have signed my grandchildren away, Tina, back in those days, because I didn't even think I was going to be, alive when, the grandchildren came around. I was so happy to be signed with Motown Records that we didn't even get a lawyer, but we should have, because we ended up signing a contract where we gave away the name Supreme in that contract. And let me tell you, it's something that I do regret and wish that we had known better. But we were happy. We were happy to be singing and have a recording contract. And I look back now, 76 years old I am. I look back and I wouldn't change. I wouldn't change. I mean, having been with Motown Records, I should have gotten a lawyer.
It is a phenomenon to have the voting. It is a phenomenon that is born out of this pandemic. And it is not something that.
Who do I hear?
Yeah, we're hearing it over again here somehow.
I don't. It's not me.
It's a party line.
That sometimes happens on Zoom, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
It was like a 60s, 50s flashback. When somebody be on your phone, you didn't know.
Somebody have it maybe on their computer there. But anyway, for Jerry and for Stanley and Dawn, particularly, you three were child actors, as opposed to Tina coming on the show as an adult. What was that child actor experience like for you, and how did you kind of adjust moving forward after that?
For
Who
me,
wants to go first?
yeah,
Go ahead,
I'll
Jer.
go first. How about that? For me, it was pretty easy. I started as an actor when I was 2 years old doing live TV. So I used to do the Ed Sullivan Show and a lot of the early live TV shows. So it was something that I got very used to. When I went to school, I never went to a regular school until I was in high school. I always had a teacher, a studio teacher. So probably the best education you can get. It's like the education of the kings and queens of Europe. You've got a private tutor. My dad was in the LA City school system, so he would get some of the best teachers, and I just had a wonderful time. It was really something that basically set me up for life and was a lot of fun.
Don, you want to go next?
It was a very interesting experience for me because I also started very young, like Jerry. The first thing I ever did in front of the camera was I was 4 years old. And it was a very, very low budget independent production that a friend of my dad's was involved in. And I ran around as a Native American child. Found out when I was 12 that I'd played a boy instead of a girl. And since I started so young during the formative years, that I had a hard time learning right from left. For me, it was always right and left. I finally figured out later that it was because I grew up hearing camera right, camera left, which is the opposite, like stage right, stage left. So that was interesting. Things like that. It's a very unique childhood growing up in the business and starting acting so young. And only another fellow child actor who started as young can truly understand it, like Stan and Jerry.
Well, I started when I was about 5. I got discovered at a swim school in Hollywood by an agent who, I think one of my first jobs was to drown or almost drown for John Provost on Lassie. I was his stunt double in the initial show he was in when Tommy Reddick was leaving the show. And then I got cast as an extra on Ozzie and Harriet. And for whatever reason, Ozzie gave me a line, which turned me into an actor. I was able to get my Screen Actors Guild card. He said he was going to have me back, and he did for, every year from about 1956 to 1960 when My Three Sons started. I did about maybe 4 or 5 episodes a year as a neighborhood kid, and then finally My Three Sons came along, and I got cast as Chip on My Three Sons. What was interesting, though, I never had a tutor or there was a lot of people that went to Hollywood professional school when they weren't working on a show.
Been there, done
my
that.
parents decided the best thing for us was to go back to public school, which it was interesting, let's put it that way, because, when I was originally going to school, I just fit in, nobody knew me. And then 1 year later, I came back and, 60 million people knew you and couldn't hide the fact. So it was pretty daunting, going from a sound stage back to public school where everybody knew who you were. Either people wanted to be your friend or the girls all wanted to kiss me and the guys all wanted to beat me up. So I was in a lot of fights from elementary school, junior high, high school, defending the honor of My Three Sons. But, it all worked out. Yeah, my parents made a great decision because they said, look, you're going to live in the real world when this is over and it's not full of actors and celebrities. You better learn how to get along with real people. And they made that decision. And Barry and I both went to public school the entire time we were on My Three Sons till graduated. And then after that, went to college.
Wow.
Mary, same thing. You started, you said, as you were 16. And then you made that Mike Douglas appearance, I guess, just a few years later than that. How was starting young, and how did that influence how you changed your music moving forward?
Well, first, I just want to say I'm so proud to be on this panel with all these people, because I hate to say this because people said to me, "Oh, when I was young, I used to watch you, whatever." But I did watch all of you guys, and who knew that you were going through whatever you were going through. You were stars to us. When you were on TV, you were stars. And I just want to say it's my pleasure to be on this panel with each of you.
Thank you.
And so for me, I was a little older. I guess I was old then, yeah, right? At 16. But it was really kind of wonderful, because as a little black girl, growing up in Detroit, Michigan, and being segregated and going to segregated schools, and it was not really a good time. It's kind of what's going on now in the world, where people are saying Black is beautiful and Black Lives Matter. And back then, Black lives did not matter. So when we started singing in 1961, and became famous in 1964. For me, it was like a dream come true. We really became, what we say, the American dream. We were a part of that. So it was an amazing time for us to be a part of Motown Record at the age of 16, and to be nurtured by a company and by Mr. Berry Gordy and Holland Dozier Holland, who did 10 of our #1 records. So for me, it changed my whole life. I became a nobody. And in 1964, 65, when the Civil Rights Bill came, we became divas. So I became a citizen and a diva all in the same, in the same time. So it was really a wonderful, wonderful experience for me. It really was. And I'm very happy to have been even, 16 years old and having that happen to me. Yes, it was a great time for me.
Now, these the two shows that we're that we're featuring here are long-running shows. But Tina, you joined a couple of years in, I think, a show that's called My Three Sons, with a father and three sons. How did you integrate into the show, and how did you make it kind of, your presence felt when you got there?
My interview for that, I'd done different characters before, featured characters. And at the time I'm a member of the King family, for those of you that don't know that. We were singing, we had our own television show on ABC, and I'd already done the acting in Hawaiian Isle, that. And Ed Hartman, our producer of My Three Sons, called me and said, "We haven't seen you." And I said, "Seen me for what?" He said, "Well, we're looking for an actress to play the wife of the oldest son. Why haven't you been in?" I said, "Well, I'm doing another show right now." And I went in. He said, "Please come and see us." So I went in. I had a 40-minute interview with Fred DeCordova, who was our director at the time before he left to do Johnny Carson. And the intricacies and the emotional stuff of bringing a woman into an all-male show, he was afraid that, she's like, you have to be sweet, but not sickeningly sweet. You had to be a little feisty, but not bitchy. And you have to endear yourself. And then I had another interview with Ed Hartman for another 30 minutes. And then suddenly I was brought into a room with Fred McMurray and his wife, June. And I had another half hour with them. So I really, was vetted very, very carefully.
Yeah.
And I had the sides to read for the screen test. I was told, I don't know if this is true, they told me they had looked at 2,000 girls and they had tested, I don't know, Stanley, what, 20, 25 girls that Don had to do that screen test with.
Yeah. Well, everybody in Hollywood.
Oh yeah. And so I'm waiting for the elevator with my script, and Virginia Martindale, our casting director, came after me, said, "Wait a minute, you didn't sign the contract." And I said, "What?" "You got the part. We start in a week and a half." And it was very surreal, but everyone, the boys were amazing. I mean, everybody on the set, they had been together for years, and they made me feel so welcome. I got a big bouquet of flowers from Fred McMurray and June, and which everyone was kind of shocked about. Remember that, Stanley? That he was known for, having every nickel he made. But yeah, but they were generous, they were wonderful, except that Don Grady, who played Robbie, my husband, didn't want me to do the show. He did not think I was right for him. Luckily, I didn't know that for a couple of years, but so in the first week, we're doing all the making out and all the falling in love and all that, and we couldn't kiss. We kept bumping noses, and DeCordova stopped the scene, this one scene, and he said, "Okay, look, I want you guys to go in the corner of the set and practice kissing, because you got to look like you like each other." which ended up we did.
And it worked, didn't it?
It worked. Yeah. 2 years later, we fell in love.
Right.
Landmark, you changed the show too, because you went from having twin beds in all the TV shows
right,
to having a single bed in the room.
We were one of the first shows to have but they got us, well, Don refused to do the scene when we came home from our honeymoon. And he said, "We need a big bed." They got the biggest bed we've ever seen. But the rule was we could talk, we could maybe give us a little kiss or a pat, but we had to end each scene rolled over, not facing each other. Yeah, heaven forbid we would look like we really, were married.
Then how did you two have triplets? Oh my gosh.
Immaculate deception.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Well, Gordo said right before he left to do Johnny Carson, he said, okay, I'm going to do something. Not supposed to do it, but we're going to end this scene with you two in a kiss facing each other. Heaven forbid, that's a shock. But I
You
guess
were a welcome addition to the show. We were teenagers. We were sick of looking at Uncle Charlie and Fred's like, let's get some women on this show.
well, you and Barry were so nice to me. You were just, you accepted me immediately,
Yeah,
I felt.
We wanted you there.
Ah,
I have to say, both of the guys were very nice to me too.
yeah,
That's great.
it was a real family. I mean, everybody, they've been
It really was, because it went through so many iterations, first with William Frawley, and then he left, and then we had William Demers playing the grandfather. And the show just kept evolving. That's what kept it on the air for 12 years, 380 episodes. I mean, it's crazy. In fact, I don't know whether you know this or not, My Three Sons just celebrated its 60th anniversary on TV on September, I think it was 29th. This year. It's never gone off. It's always been in prime time, reruns, cable. Gosh, it's crazy.
That's something. I want to remind everyone before we continue on that you can get those live video chats, autographs.
What happened?
So you can get those live video chats, get those autographs, get those recorded videos at other questions from fans. Catherine Callahan wants to know, Mary, what was your favorite song?
Woo! Well, that's kind of hard, I hate to keep saying what I have, but I have 10 grandchildren. So, you cannot say which one is your favorite. I do tell each one of them that they are my favorites, but it's amazing. I don't know if I have a favorite Supreme songs, but I can tell you one that I did not like, which was our first hit record, Where Did Our Love Go, in 1962.
I love that song.
And guess what? I did not like it. And I told the writers, right? Because they were bringing us, I'll give you a whole story here. Mr. Barry Gordy really liked us. And he told Holland Dozier Holland, the writers, get the girls a hit record, okay? We were called girls then because we were still young. And so they came up with all these records, Baby Love, Stopping in Love, all that. And Where Did Our Love Go was the first one. So I remember saying, I don't like that record. And I went to Holland Dozier Holland, who was the guy who, one of the writers. And I said, Eddie, you have got to get us a hit record, because if you don't get us a hit record, then we'll have to go to college. And our parents are going to make us go to college. And this Where Did Our Love Go is not a hit record. So he says, trust me, Mary, it's going to be a hit record. Well, he was right. It was our first #1 million seller around the world. So I've had to eat my words for so many years, but I still really don't think it was a great record. But obviously I was wrong, okay?
Good, because we loved it.
I did, yeah. People must have, because it became the first. In fact, we gave the Beatles, and I hate to say this again, we gave the Beatles a run for their money, because we would be #1, or they would be #2. They'd be #1. We were #2 throughout our career work. But Where Did Our Love Go was definitely a favorite of everyone else. I'll tell you one I really like now is Reflections, because lyrically, it's such a beautiful written lyric. And it talks about life, and just I can look back now and it says reflection of the way life used to be. I think we all can kind of relate to that. So that's I would say that's my favorite now.
Well, Jeannie 4, who's one of our favorite commenters, Baby Love is iconic, she says, and I gotta agree with that. And Rich Severson says, Mary, you're such a gifted singer. Have you ever done an album with the Great American Songbook?
I have. In fact, I only just learned how to sing, by my own voice. I mean, as a Supreme, of course, I was one of the Supremes, and you had mentioned, Jerry, that I was a lead singer, but I was not. Diana Ross was the lead singer of the Supremes. So I just want to clarify that, because I know the fans,
you were the lead singer for me.
Well, thank you. Well, which is fine. I just wanted to say that because some of the fans and you guys, I'm sure you have fans who write and tell you things that are incorrect. So they tell me. Anyway, what was I talking about? Oh, baby love, right? Is that the question you mentioned?
She was no, the young lady hit. She said, "Baby Love." No, Great American Songbook.
Yeah, right. That's what I was talking about. So I said I only just found my voice after Stanley. You mentioned 60 years. Well, for the Supremes, it's 60 years as well. And I've only just found my voice as Mary Wilson the past, I'd say maybe 10 years. And I have a live CD that I've recorded, which is called Up Close with Mary Wilson. I do all ballads because basically I'm a ballad singer. So yes, my song, No Complaints, No Regrets. I still believe in chasing dreams and placing bets. So anyway, so I have done an album, but I have no record company, so I had to put it out, online. So I do. Look for Mary
That's
Wilson.
awesome.
That's my American Songbook song.
So another question. We'll start with Jerry, and then we'll have the others chime in. Did you have a favorite, either guest star or how was it working with Barbara Billingsley and Hugh Beaumont, and then the guest stars? Talk a little bit about the folks that you work with as a young actor on that show.
They were all really nice people. Hugh Beaumont was kind of interesting because he was actually a Methodist minister and did a couple of religious shows, and people thought he was so good that they told me he should go on interviews and Leave It to Beaver, except for being this really hard-nosed, I think it was a detective named Michael Shane in what were called not B movies. They were even shorter before their things. So he went from becoming this kind of a detective that would take you, and if you didn't tell him what you wanted, beat you up against the wall, to being the father on Leave It to Beaver, which just shows what a great actor he was, that he could do both those parts. But it was a wonderful time for me anyway. We had a wonderful time. Everybody liked everybody, and it's still on today. It never ceases to amaze me. 63 years.
It's crazy. And Dawn, you were younger, but were there actors in the troupe there that kind of made an impression on you at that age?
What made an impression on me more than the guest stars was some of the episodes. We had so much fun with them. Like that episode in the dream sequence where I was the parent and Steve and Barbara were the kids, and the costumes they dressed them up in. Oh my gosh. And this episode where Steve participated in a school play for Dodie because he was the tallest dad, so he was the tree. You should see those costumes. I'm a little mushroom, right? And the mushroom cap top they put on my head is bigger than me. It just slays me. I just love that. It's so funny. That kind of thing, it stays with me more. And the fond memories of how wonderful the guys were, Stan and Barry and Don, miss him very much. And my Beverly, my TV mom, absolutely wonderful, love her dearly, miss her huge too. And Gina, love her to death. My big sister, these they really like family to me. They really are, and I love them all.
And Stanley, everyone asked, did you have a preference to the uncles? But besides that, are there actors who were important to you at that age?
Well, probably my preference, only because I think I was younger and I had an affinity for him when the show first started, was William Frawley, who came to My Three Sons directly from being Fred Mertz on I Love Lucy, who I remember playing hooky from school so I could watch I Love Lucy. Barry and I we'd somehow get sick about 8 a.m. and then, parents go, well, you don't have to go to school. And then 9 a.m. we'd, come out, watch I Love Lucy. And then as soon as it was over, we'd have a miraculous recovery. So, and then I found out he was going to be the grandfather on My Three Sons. And he was just, he was probably my favorite character on I Love Lucy. He was just so grumpy and crazy and, all that. And he was that in real life. I used to go to lunch with him every day at Nick Adele's restaurant. And for a guy that was very W.C. Fields-like, meaning he didn't like kids or animals, we took a shine to each other, and we were like best friends. For my 14th birthday, I remember I walked into my dressing room, And, you know, a guy that age could easily just give you a $5 bill and say, happy birthday. He bought me a Dewey Weber surfboard because he knew I was into surfing. And I mean, that was just like, wow, how did you get this here? You know, well, you don't even drive. But, you know, it just showed he was listening to what I was into and really, you know, wanted to impress me. And I was so sad when he left. He couldn't get insured. I think it was around the 4th or 5th year of the show, and they ended up replacing him and brought in Bill Demarest, who, you know, it wasn't that I disliked him, but when you're a little kid, you know, Bill Frawley was just so much fun to be around, and all his antics and craziness and profanity and all the things he brought to the show. You know, it's like, hey, you just took my friend's job. I don't know if I like you or not, but we eventually warmed up. Interesting, though, thing about My Three Sons in the beginning was the people that came on to My Three Sons, you know, as guest actors, such as Jerry and stuff. But there were a lot of pretty big stars of that era that wanted to do the show or friends with Fred McMurray. We had Jimmy Stewart, Sylvia Sidney. I'm trying to think of all the big stars, George Gobel. But it was a launch pad also for a lot of new actors like Beau Bridges, Martin Sheen. There's even a show in there. He doesn't have a line. He was cast as an extra, but I'm about 99% sure it's Harrison Ford, you know, who was just getting his feet wet. Jody Foster, she did several episodes. Well, Don probably knows more.
Those were the Doty years.
Yeah,
Jody was a school friend of Doty's, yes. And I remember Mickey Dolenz during my seasons. Mickey Dolenz guested.
Yeah, talk about Mickey Dolenz. We had a question from a fan about that.
Well, he worked on there as, you know, just another actor coming through that was doing you know, just a job. And I guess it was, I guess that would be before the Monkees, wouldn't it? I don't remember when the Monkees were.
Yeah, Monkees were late. Yeah, I think it would have been.
Yeah, I did
or right before or right about. Yeah, Dominic D is the fan who, thank you for that question, Dominic, asking about the memories of Mickey Dolenz on set.
He's a great guy, though. I worked at Hanna-Barbera for a while doing voiceover, and he seemed to be there a lot. And we did a lot of shows together for them, just doing voiceover.
We had him here on the Virtual Experiences a couple months back. He was great. I got to interview him, which was a thrill for me. Some other great questions we had from Phil Fraser was kind of already asked about Ward and June. So thank you, Phil. Medell Ford wants to know, Jerry, do you have a favorite episode of the show?
That would be like saying, what was your favorite day of school between first grade and 7th grade? A lot of them, when I watch them, and I do watch them every once in a while, and it's kind of nice. I see like Edgar Buchanan and a lot of the people that came on that weren't the permanent cast, because they were, you know, I saw them all the time. But when I see some of the fun things and I remember those days, it always just lightens my heart for that day.
Another question for you, Jerry, and this I think applies also Stanley. For both of you, you were kind of, I mean, Jerry, the show was called Leave It to Beaver, so you were the focus. And I think Stanley, the show is in a lot of ways, it's told from your perspective, but you started out very young, and then especially Stanley, by the end of the series, it's a completely different stage of life. How did we were able to make the series still work? And most shows that are focused on kids, I mean, the Brady Bunch was great, but when they got to be too old, it wasn't going to be the same show and it couldn't stay. But you guys made that work. How did you make that work years later? Both of you.
Well, we had contracts. We were forced to come back and work. Yeah, you know, it's interesting because I did the pilot for My Three Sons in 1959 when I was, I think, which is before I was 9 years old, and it went on the air. And when the show was over, by the time the last show had aired, I was 23. So I spent my entire youth and adolescence and teenage years. Every pimple I ever had was on display on that show. A lot of different haircuts too.
And you were married by the time the show was over.
Ronnie Troop.
Well, things change, you know, even on My Three Sons, they tried to keep it the same wholesome Midwest look. But, you know, when the 60s rolled around, you know, in I think December of 63 is when I found out about the Beatles. And by the end of that month, I had that album, Meet the Beatles. And I go, I want those shoes, those boots. And it's like, where do you get those boots? And
well, you had the Liverpool episode too, right? You had that Liverpool.
Yeah, I put them on, and I got in a lot of trouble for wearing those boots on the show, and they made me take them off. But as soon as I was through for the day, those boots went back on, and, fashion changed. I wanted to wear my hair long. They're like, no way. And wasn't until the end of the show.
Jody was throwing cheeseburgers into the boots. So
Yeah,
there you go.
yeah.
So Stephen N. Bleckman, a fan, reminds us that Jerry was on a 10th season episode of My Three Sons that you referenced there, Stanley. So thank you. So before we finish up, and man, the time just really flies by, I just want to go kind of around the horn and just give everyone kind of a quick chance to just talk about something they're working on, or a cause, or just say hi to the fans. Mary, we'll start with you.
Well, can I ask Stanley a question?
Absolutely. In fact, I'm going to go away. You just be the host.
I got to put my glasses on so I can see you.
Okay.
Mary, you asked the question.
Sorry.
How did you guys remain so sort of down to earth in that environment? Because, we know, a lot of people didn't do so well, but you guys all seem so well-rounded and whatever.
You know what? I credit my parents for that. We were in show business, and they said, look, as long as you're having fun, want to do this, you can do it. If you don't want to do it anymore, just tell us, and, we'll get you out of it. And I think going back to public school, prepared us for reality. It was really strange. I used to tell people about this. You're on a show for 12 years, and one of the biggest shows of all time, so everybody knew you. I mean, it was kind of like a dose of being the Beatles, maybe in a smaller way. But I couldn't go anywhere, without, if you went to a restaurant, you were just mobbed, while you're trying to eat. But as the show was getting older, I started thinking, gee, what am I going to do next? And I got interested in behind the camera and directing, producing, and tried to learn everything about that. And then one day, you finally get that notice the show isn't coming back, and the real reality of that set in. You go from being an actor that's esteemed, at least for that period of time, to the very next day I got a call from my agent, and he said, oh, I have an interview for you. And so I went on the interview, and I was one of about a couple hundred guys there to do a McDonald's commercial, and I think I had to put a hat on and flip a hamburger. I'm going, wow, that knocked, if you're up on your high horse, that knocked you right back down. I realized right then, you're a star one day and you're back to square one as an actor the next day. And you got to go out and you got to, get your next job and earn your next job. Nobody's going to do you any favors. And if you can't adjust to that, which was a problem that I saw that a lot of my friends had who had series, they just thought the industry owes me a living, and it's not the way it works, man. You got to go out and fight for everything after that and be willing to do whatever it takes to get the next job.
I like that, because parents are something that I feel we need more parenting now, but a lot of times children are left with the television, they're left with the games, they're left with all these little things, and they don't have that really parenting that we used to have.
Yeah, you got to have good parents, unfortunately.
I hear you say that, because that's
being a member of the King family, that what you saw on television was real. And so I always had that support, and we were together. We worked together, we played together, we went to church together. It was just a very safe environment for those times, because there was a whole other parallel universe, with the drugs and all the, the free love and all this stuff that was going on. And it's like we were traveling the same road, but not in the same universe. It was interesting, but it was a very safe, I always felt very safe because of that.
Great. Well, I'll let you know, right now I'm involved in several things. I have a new book out. Well, it came out last year, but it's kind of new because of the pandemic, but it's called Supreme Glamour. It's my third book, and I'm very proud of it, because it's about how the Supremes were glamorous and all our gowns and things like that. So I'm very proud of that. That's my latest project. I have I've learned some of the technology, and I have a new YouTube Mary Wilson channel, which is like blowing my mind, because I don't know anything about tech. And I have a Supreme YouTube channel coming up. And I'm also working on, I want to put this up, I'm working on getting Miss Florence Ballard, the original founding member of the Supremes, a stamp. She passed away in 1976. And so I just want all the fans who like Supremes, let's help get this honor for her. It would be so wonderful to have a U.S. stamp for her. So that's my latest project. And of course, I love my grandchildren. I can't wait to see them again because it's been since March. And so that's really pretty much everything. That's a couple of things I've been doing. Where's that voice?
Awesome. Sounds like someone has the news on or something in the background. Do you have anything on in the background? Yes. Jerry, tell us what you've got going.
Well, I do a lot of appearances. I talk about having diabetes, which was something I got because after I finished the new Leave It to Beaver, which was in the early 80s and 90s, I started businesses, and one of them was a catering business, and I put on a lot of weight, and I just thought, this is the good life. And all of a sudden, a friend of mine that's a doctor said, why don't you come in and we'll give you a physical? And she said, you've got probably 6 to 8 years to live because you have raging diabetes.
Oh.
And it's probably because of your weight. And I kind of went, wait a minute. I lost some weight. I'm now a lot more healthy. I'm not on insulin, but I do have to watch what I eat. But, you know, it's something that I can talk about and use my, celebrity to be able to tell people that if you're overweight, you better go into a doctor at least every year, if not every 2 years, to get checked for a lot of things, because as we get older, those things come up and smack you right in the mouth.
I hear you. Stanley, any last words?
Sorry, I think I got knocked off. Somebody called me.
But you're back. Here you
I'm
are.
back. Figured out how to get back in. That took a couple minutes. Well, for me, like I said, I got started with trying to figure out how to go on the other side of the camera when I was about 18, 21, formed a production company with another guy, and just been doing that ever since. Occasionally acting comes up. I don't really pursue it, but I've worked as a producer, director, I guess, for probably the last 25 years doing, feature films. I did a Cinerama film, produced a Cinerama film not too long ago, sitting here with a TV pilot that's waiting to go, except COVID got in the way.
Yeah.
So, we were getting ready to start it, and everything got put on hold, and, that's where we're at. So I can't cry about it. Just got to wait till this thing's over, I guess, to get back to work. It's really difficult if you're in the film industry because you're with a group of people. You're either locked up on a soundstage with 30, 40 people in a day, and maybe the crew can wear a mask, but the actors certainly can't. And so it's just kind of a dangerous proposition right now. So we'll have to wait and see.
And Tina?
Well, I was singing with my cousins. We were going to do a show as children of the King sisters. We were going to do a tribute to them. We're going to do a full orchestra. We had the venue. We have been rehearsing for a year, doing all of their exact arrangements, every note, it was just really fun and wonderful. And then of course, as Stanley said, COVID came along. So we're hoping maybe next summer that we could do it. I'm writing a book and hopefully I can get that. That's not easy for me. I don't know how you do it, Mary, but I think it's really hard. And I teach a class. So many of the mothers are so overwhelmed right now because they're working from home. They're trying to homeschool their kids and they're tearing their hair out. And I was asked if I would do a class a couple of days a week, just a few hours, and to help the children with their socialization. I do music, I do drama and manners. We're doing etiquette, and we're do like 8-week blocks, and then we have a showcase afterwards. So our showcase is coming up on the 11th of November, so they can show their parents and families what they've been learning. So I'm staying busy, and I've got six grandkids that I'm real busy with too. So life's good.
And Dawn?
Well, my husband and I got married 14 years ago last April, and since then I've been following his career. Right after we got married, we moved to Hawaii from Catalina Island off the coast of California. And then we were there for 4 years. And then we went to, no, 1 year, sorry, 1 year. And then we went to Germany for his job, Garmisch, beautiful place. If you ever get to Germany, go see Garmisch, it's wonderful. And then after that, back to Hawaii for 4 years, and then back to Germany, Stuttgart area. And just earlier this year, we moved back to Los Angeles, again for his job, and just doing our best right now to close our escrow and get settled in our new place. That's our focus right now.
That's great.
Which country?
Yeah.
Yo, here, Los Angeles, here.
Oh, yay, you're back.
Yay!
So,
So I hope to visit you and Paula soon. And I
Yes.
hope I get to see Tina soon. She'll come
Yeah.
visit. And of course, Barry.
Yep.
That would be wonderful.
So
Another
now-
fan, Todd Tremper, just said, Jerry Mathers, you're an inspiration to everyone with diabetes. So he appreciated you bringing that forward. Don't forget, coming up, wizardworldvirtual.com. This was great. We had a great time on the Q&A, but we didn't get to a million things, which I'm sure you wanted to ask. That's what those great video chats, those live video chats are for, the recorded videos, the autographs. They're all available at wizardworldvirtual.com. Just click on the 60s celebration, 60s party there that we have going on. Also coming up next week, next Saturday, X-Men Animated, Starship Troopers, and Land of the Lost. Next Sunday, it's Baywatch, and next Monday, Veterans Day celebration with our friends, the pinups for vets. 4, Mary Wilson, Jerry Mather, Stanley Livingston, Tina Cole, and Dawn Lynn. I'm Jerry Milani. Have a great one. We'll see you soon on Wizard World
Bye,
Virtual
everyone.
Experiences. Thanks so much,
Bye.
everyone. Have a great one.
Bye, everybody. Bye, Jerry. Bye, Tina. Bye, Mary.
Bye, darlings.
Bye, Don. Good
Bye,
seeing
Stan.
everybody
Love
virtually.
you. Bye, Tina.
Good to
Love
see you
you.
guys.
You too.
Nice to meet you, Mary. Hey, Jerry.
So wonderful. It's all you make my